So the app is quite simple. So let me quickly show you what we have here. So I have this simple app, and in the code base, I'm just gonna close everything. So it's an Angular app. I started that with the CLI, not NX, just trying to keep it really simple for the moment. And when you go in the app, you can actually search for things here, right? So so it's really simple. If you can't see it, let me know so I can just zoom a little bit further. Okay. So how do you implement that search? How do you quickly implement that search? So the first step here. Oh, okay, much better. Very good. So the first step here is basically I'm going inside the component. So for those who don't know, I'm using Visual Studio Code, and if you go inside the app, I can quickly show you the structure of the app. You don't need to really read the source code. I can share with you in Augury if you don't know that tool. So you'll be able to see a little bit of the structure of my application. So I have an app component, and then the app component has 3 components inside: a header, a search component, and a course. So if we check those components one after the other, you can clearly see them here. There is a course component, header, and then a search component right here. Okay. So we're mostly going to focus on the app component here first, and the search component. The header is quite simple. Okay. So what we have here, we're going to implement this. So we receive from outside, we receive that input. So I'm using this function search to make my to call the search features. Okay. So the way you do that, you have communication between component, which is already set up for you. So when I go inside my app component HTML, so when I go back in my component, you can see I have my header, and then I'm using the BS search component, where I'm actually passing this search event emitter on the other side. Okay. And then here I have the list of courses, right? So now the next step here is basically to go inside the search component itself. As you can see, that search component has just an output that is an event emitter here. Okay. So this is basically a simple implementation you can have here. Another implementation you can quickly have is to say, well, instead of using an event emitter, you're going to use an input. Okay. So the way you do that, you go here and then you say, instead of having this, I'm going to do that. But before we even go there, we need to implement the search function. Okay. So let me go back in here. So what do I have inside the search? I have my list of courses, and I just want to filter them by title. That's all I have. So let me get the courses here. You will see inside the mock, I have my list of courses over here. Okay. I just want to filter them by title. That's all I wanted to do. Okay. So when I go here, inside my app component, I'm just gonna say like I have my courses. Okay. And then from that courses, what I do is basically let me go here. So for that courses, I'm just gonna read from the mock and filter. Okay, so for each course, I'm just gonna take the course.title and I'm gonna check against the input. So that input variable that comes here is basically the title the user has typed in the search. Okay, so if I put title here just to make it easier, you see now I have my title that I have this implementation here. So whatever is returned from here will just be shown right here. Okay, so if we put this in place, we put it back in place. Okay, we can now go back inside our app and then do our search. So if I do Angular, see there is a problem here. All right, so I just quickly need to fix it because my app is showing the list of things, but whenever I start searching, I don't find anything anymore. So I guess you quickly see what's the issue. So what do you think we're going to do here? Okay, so here the idea is pretty simple. So when I call this search function, it goes inside the component app component HTML, and then it calls this function, and this function itself calls this function right here, and that function goes inside the search component here and then emit that value. Okay, so let me go back quickly here, and our app isn't running well, so it shows the list of components. So when I do React, nothing is happening, and then I do React here, nothing is happening still. Okay, let's quickly fix that issue. So what do we have here? We have the search function. Okay, so we go from our mock courses, and then we basically check if the title is equal to this title. Okay, but that actually doesn't work because I'm using a triple equal. What I need to do, I need to check if it contains, so if the title include this title. Okay, so that's gonna probably be a better way to implement that. Okay, so that is one thing here. So when I go back now, I can search for everything Angular, for example, or a day in. Okay, so that's kind of working, but that doesn't work when I do I do this. So I need to fix it by basically saying I'm going to make sure that they're all either lowercase or all of them should be uppercase. Okay, so one of the things I'm doing here, I just lowercase all of them, literally, but as you can see, I'm putting my logic in the component. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's not a thing you should be doing. Okay, don't do that. So, but for simplicity, I'm putting it here. We're gonna remove that as we go along with the process. Okay, so let me go back in here and we test again. Now we see lowercase or uppercase. That works really well. So that is one step. That is a very simple one. As you can see, implementation pretty easy. And in the README, as I said, we're not using any mock data, and we're just talking about communication between components. Some people use the same approach by saying, well, instead of using an input and an output here, they rather pass the function from one component to the other one. So they have a direct link and they can call the function directly from app component. I'm not fully aligned with that, but I'm gonna show you how you will do it. So here, what you will do, you just say, you're going to use an input, and you're gonna have a search function, and that search function here is literally just a simple function. Okay, so it's just a function. It's a callable function. Okay, so instead of using this, okay, you're gonna be using that search. Let me go inside here. You go in here and then you say, I'm going to use the search function, and you're going to pass this parameter here. Okay, so now I can remove this, and now what you're actually doing, you receive a function from outside, and then you're just passing it, and you call it within this child component. Okay, so you're using input all the way. You're not using output, which means emitting a value. Okay, so yeah, index of could also work, but indeed includes its a good tools here. Okay, so and now once you do that, you need to go back inside app component, and here, instead of using this approach, let me go here, copy that, so I make sure that this is, we're gonna reuse it because I already used that one. So here I'm just gonna say I'm passing the search, which is an input. In that case, you're using an input, and then you say I'm passing that search function, and you're basically saying I'm passing you the function, right? This is the equivalent of passing a function to another function in JavaScript. That's literally that. Okay, so but guess what? This won't work. You know that? You know why it won't work? So if I go back in my app and I open my console, I open my console here, so you can see I'm gonna be searching for Angular. Okay, let me just adjust that. So Angular, okay, this seems to work. Did I forget to save something, anything? Okay, this seems to work. Let me slowly check that again. Okay, my bad. Oh yeah, obviously it does work. It does work because, yeah, I'm using here, instead of a normal function, I'm using a narrow function. But if I go back to this implementation with a normal function and not a narrow function, that's what I meant that this won't work. So now you already you see already what I meant by this won't work. See, now I'm doing my search and nothing is happening because there is a problem with the context dish. But that it's gonna be the topics of another webinar. Okay, I'll be able to show you how this keyword works in JavaScript really well. So let me go back to this implementation, and I'm using an arrow function here which solved the problem. Okay, so that makes our thing work. But what we just did right now, we just pass a function to as a parameter, and that's basically it. So that's also an implementation. Okay, so let me take you back to where we were, because I don't like this one. I love this one, and I'm gonna make sure that I show you how you can write this one. You can get to love this one. Actually, here I'm gonna keep the search function, and what I'm going to do in there, let me just implement that. So put it like this, and I'm just gonna take, for some people who are very purist, I'm gonna make sure that we're using, let me open the search component. So I'm gonna make sure that we call this right here, and inside our app component, I actually do this search emitter, then I emit, and then here I can pass the value that I'm gonna receive right here. Okay. Okay, this is good. This is first step. It's working really well. Now let's step up. That's really simple. That's Angular 101. right? It's even JavaScript, okay? Now let's clean that up, okay? I'm not gonna be using, let me close everything and then we start from a clean slate. The README says we did no backend communication between components. Now we're moving on to something else, right? An event emitter is a subject, okay? So we're going to use a backend, a fake backend, so in memory DB, and I'm gonna show you how indeed an event emitter is a subject, okay? So what is a subject, by the way? A subject is an observable that at the same time produces data and at the same time you can consume from it, which means you can pull data and at the same time push data from the same from a subject, okay? An event emitter is a subject, but the way you do it, you're basically saying I'm emitting value, and then on the other end you can turn that as an observable and then some people can connect to it, okay? So let me quickly set up our scenario here. So I'm gonna add just go inside the module and we're gonna set up our project. So the first thing that I need here is to set up our backend basically. So inside the API I have this file, I uncomment that, and I'm going to take this API and go inside my module and actually take the entire thing. So I can use the auto import, but I want, since I'm doing it live now, I just want to also show you the step here. So here what I need, I just need the in-memory web API module, okay? And I go inside my it's a module, so guess what, I need to add it over here, okay? So when I add it here, I can now do for route, and for route needs an implementation of the in-memory DB service, which we actually did right here, okay? But so let me import that, so that's problem solved. But since this is a service, so I need to actually make it injectable and provide in root, because yeah, that's where I want it to come from, okay, to be injected. So with this one we're good, and now I'm going to stop using the the mock data. So the way I do that, I need to go inside my app component, and then inside app component we're gonna stop with this. We don't need that, so I'm actually removing it entirely because we're not doing that. Don't do that. Don't put your implementation, your logic here, move it on the service. And we're gonna start here with an empty array of element, okay? So what I need to do now is to connect that service. So we have a course services file which has already two functions, get courses and then search courses, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that now we use that backend. So the way we do it, I already had the HTTP right here and the URL for the HTTP, okay? So the way I'm going to do that, just comment out this line and return here this.get, http.get, and I just need to pass the URL of the courses. So let me just quickly fix that and say this.courses. And here, technically, I should be fine because I'm actually returning something of type, an observable of object, but it wants me to return an observable or courses. So what I'm going to do is just to tell it that this is actually an observable or of courses, okay? So this is an observable. There we go. Now we're moving toward the RxJS world. It's gonna be amazing. That's where I want us to go. So now let's go inside our component. We're just gonna add, we're going to implement on init right here, and I'm just gonna say ng on init. Why isn't picking up? Yeah, because he didn't import it on init. So now I'm gonna have some help on init here. And what I want to do, I also need to add a constructor, and here I'm going to inject my course service, CS, course services. Okay, so I have my course service, and I'm just gonna say this.cs dot get courses, and I can now just subscribe to it. Please don't subscribe. I just need to show you something quickly. Okay, you don't need to subscribe at this stage. Okay, so when I do this, I can go back here, and I'm gonna have a few errors saying course services isn't injected. I know you are pretty good, so you know exactly what's the issue is. I just need to go here and providing in route. Okay, very good. So so then go back inside my code, my app, and I have another error that says I'm missing a provider, no provider for HTTP client. So that means that here indeed I need to add HTTP client module. There we go, and that should fix our problem. Okay, so our apps is working again, but now we're seeing that we have a list of technology here. So yeah, the console log that I put on line 18 here does work, but you don't want to do this. That you don't want to do. Okay, for debugging purpose, or even for debugging, there are many other ways to do it. Okay, so what you want to do is to basically get that information, and then give it on the assign that to a variable, and then that variable should is it's your UI that needs to subscribe to it. So the way you do that, you just go here and then say, okay, I'm gonna turn that into a stream, so an observable of courses, because that's what we get there, and then you give it like a default value of, so you have an observable of courses, and you start with an empty one. And now here you can just say, I'm going to assign this dot courses to this. Okay. Okay. So now you see that we have our courses that are assigned to this thing. And what do you do now with this? You go inside your component. So app component, HTML, and then here, okay, there are a few things that are broken, but that's not a big deal. Now you need to pass courses and pass that to an async pipe. Okay, so we have an error here, but that we're going to fix in a few minutes actually. So let me just remove that for the moment. So when I go here, now I can see that my list of books are showing. Okay, and I have a few errors here and there, but that is not the big deal really. But yeah, indeed, our apps is working again. So now let me quickly fix quickly fix the search, because now we're showing the books. One of the things you need to know about async, if you don't know, async is gonna subscribe for you and unsubscribe once you leave, once the component isn't used anymore, or when you're leaving that page. Okay, so use async, and I can do a whole courses on how to use async. Like it's an amazing tool. Okay. And one of the sessions we organize in the future is actually how to build your own async. So if you want to join that, just subscribe to our newsletter, and you should be able to see how to build your own async. Okay. So now we lost the search features because it's not working anymore. Okay. So now let's go and implement the search feature. So search is also pretty easy. I mean, easy, not easy at all. Let me remove that word. It's not easy. It's just a different approach here. So I'm going inside my search component. No, I need to go inside my service. So of course, now we're done with this one. Now let's implement that search. The search has also an API that you can tap into, and you just call that with the title you're searching for, right? So and then people gonna receive, so your backend technically should receive a call here with that search term. Okay, so the way you do that, let me comment out this line and clean up a little bit because we actually don't need it after that. So here you can see this search courses takes a term. Okay, that's an observable. It says it's an observable of string. That's basically the search term that you receive from the user typing. Okay, so what you want to do is to actually take that term and then make an HTTP call with it. Okay, so let me quickly do that for you. So you're going to have let me think an easy way to do it first. Oh, okay. Let me actually make that easier for the moment. Okay, so I'm gonna keep here and that as a string first, and you will understand what I'm trying to do. And then we're gonna still return an observable of courses, but the way you do it, you just say, I'm going to call, let me go back here. Okay, something, yeah, okay. I'm going to call this dot get, so http.get, and then what you do, you just pass the term, right? No, you pass this dot search by title, and you append the term at the end. Because if I go here, let me find that. You see, it basically says app courses and then title. So you actually just appending your term over here. That's what you're doing. You're just adding your term here. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. So let me close that. And now same problem. I know that I'm returning an observable of this, so I just need to call that. Okay, here I'm not using an observable. I'm not using an observable at all. Okay, so look what's gonna happen quickly. I'm gonna go to the app component. Now I have my search function, so I can go here and then call that, create that search here, and then say whenever someone sent me an input, which is a string, I can just call this dot cs dot search courses, and I'm going to pass that input. That's it. See, let me move it here. That is pretty simple. And since this one return search courses, so I can move it right here. There you go. There you go. And since this courses is already connected here, your app should just work flawlessly. Okay, no, not quite, but it should work. So let me just update that, and then let's try Angular. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Okay, why not? So let me try Angular. Okay, nothing is happening. Why not? So debugging time, what do we have as a problem? It says length, so that's not a big deal. So what am I missing? Genius people out there, help me. What isn't working? So we have this dot search by title and plus the term. Okay, so maybe we're doing something wrong here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna pipe it and then say, let me tap that. Ah, yeah, indeed. I can see that search is not, you didn't call the search function. Thank you, Dres. Very good, this is true. I didn't call app component. I need to go back here and then say, I'm going to call this one, and then say, whenever you call that, I call my search and I receive $event. Thank you guys, that was amazing. Thanks for your help. So so now if we go back in the app and we type Angular, well, nothing is happening. Let me update that again. Angular. Yeah, see, there we go. It's working, right? So we have our search that is working, but we have we still have something here that says we call this function and then this other function. Okay, this one is on ng on init, and this one basically override anything that thing does. As you can see here, these two things are actually assigning. So this one will happen the first time, and this one will just override it later. But before trying to make them work together, I just want to fix what is happening in here. So at this stage, I have my search, which is just a normal input, and I take the value, I send that through EventEmitter, and on the other side, someone takes that and then send that to my backend, and now there is an observable that is returned over here. Here is my goal. I want to build an end-to-end pipe where I use observable all the way, from the user that types to to this call made to the search here. So for that, let me just make sure that we turn already this thing into an observable. So, and I know that observable here, I can just put it back as observable of, yeah, that's okay. And now to get that term out of that observable, what I need to do, I just need to say I need the term, and I'm going to pipe whatever that term is, and I'm gonna put it in the, I'm just gonna use one of a very famous switch map operator in RxJS. So let me take it from RxJS because it seems not to want to come by itself. So from RxJS.operator, and we're just gonna take switch map. Okay, so if you want to know what switch map does, now I'm gonna get the term and then pass it right here. Okay, if you want to know what switch map does, I can redirect you to RxJS Marble. Okay, it's a very good website here where you can find how these operators actually work. So let me quickly finish with that because we're almost running out of time. So now I have my terms coming as an observable, okay? And now, yeah, surely I have a few questions here that can we can discuss that right after. It's a good one, Niels. Very good question. So now I have this, which means that I already turned this function in like a full observable thing. So where is it used? It's used over here. So what I could do here to make it work, don't do that, but it's gonna kind of fix it. See, it's by using off here, I'm already turning that into an observable. No, I'm not quite there. I want to go to the level where it's literally the user typing and then I get that data and not do the transformation at this level. So how do I do that? So the way I can do it is to look into what is the user typing actually. So I go inside my search component, and inside the search component, I see that the user is the data the user is typing. It's basically comes through an event emitter. But let's check what is an event emitter once again. Look, an event emitter is, as I said before, is a subject. An event emitter is a subject, which means that it is an observable. It is something you can observe as well, which means that I can call subscribe on it, or I can start piping it and combine that with edit other things. So now I can go back to my component here and then say, I don't need any of that. Let me go back into the search component. And then here what I can do and just say, well, I don't want you to go to receive this as an output, but you can probably receive this as an input. Okay, so I don't need to initialize it over here, which means that this call here is still valid. Okay, but then since this thing comes as an input, I need to take this entire thing there and then go inside app and add this over here and initialize it over here. Let me import that. Event emitter comes from here. Okay, so then just say a new event emitter. Okay, so now I have my event emitter that is here, and I'm going to pass it, instead of passing it here as an output, I'm just gonna say you're going to receive this as an input. So I have my search event emitter right here. So now I just went, I'm already using event emitter as an observable. So the only thing missing, as you can see, I removed the search function, which means that technically this function became useless. Okay, so now that I have my event emitter, that I passed that on the other side, so now I can call this function by passing that input here. So instead of saying this, okay, let me go here. I can just move it now here and then say, okay, it doesn't come. Slowly, okay, so let me remove that one. So here, now I can say, instead of that input and off, I can now just pass that search event emitter because it's an observable. So right away, I have a link that goes from the search, the user typing, to the search courses. So I kind of reached my goal, but I'm not quite there entirely, because if I go here and then say this dot courses as it was, guess what's going to happen? Nothing. We're not gonna have any data, because this function, obviously this assignment is erasing this one, right? So if you didn't get that, let me just remove this again and clean that a little bit and see. We see the books, the courses, but then when we go here, we realize that, yeah, the search isn't working anymore. Okay. So there are many ways to fix that. You can go in your backend and then you say, let's just make sure that it's one function that does the search and return all the books if there is nothing in the title. Yeah, you can do that. But I want to talk RxJS here, right? So in RxJS, I'm basically saying these are two sources, source one and then source two, the second one. And the two sources are basically bringing the same data to the same, assigning the same data to the same courses, okay? So there are many ways to go about it. What you could do, you can just say, I'm going to merge the two streams. So let me quickly show you React how. It's also a website that you should be using. And you go into what is merge? Merge is here. So I want you to look at this for a second and see what is happening. Okay, so as you can see, merge as kind of the answer for what we're trying to do. Okay, so let me go back here and then actually get the merge to come here. So merge comes from here. And what I'm going to say is the two sources. So source one, I'm going to take this one. So merge and then pass this one. And then I take the second one, put it there. And now what I'm going to do is the result of that is the one that I put inside courses, assigned to courses. You see what is happening right here? It's basically, I'm saying we have two sources. One that's gonna automatically return all the courses, and another one that's gonna be triggered only later for when someone start typing. Okay, so if I go back here in the app, as you can see now, I see my apps, my books showing the courses and the books, and then if I start looking for the Angular. Now it's the second one that is triggering. Okay, so we can actually check that here. Sorry for the errors here. I'm just gonna quickly remove that. So I need to go inside the books template and then say show this one only if there are something in there. So that should fix it. Okay. Okay. So now as you can see. It's working. So let's go back and explain quickly what we have. We use the merge to take many sources and then bring them to one sources. Okay, because at the end they're both the same. And then if this one, for example, if I say I'm going to tap this and then say here, yeah, it takes a function and then console log. Source one, okay, and then I do exactly the same with the second source, the second one, so you'll be able to see a little bit what is happening behind the scene. Okay, so I think I broke something. So this is correct and this also correct. Okay. So if we go back in here, I can see that inside my console, you can see that source one has already emitted, and that's what is happening here. Source one has emitted already, okay? And then when you start typing, you see now source two is emitting now. And then if new data arrives in source one will just update the entire thing. So now we kind of reach where the destination I want us to go, and I'm gonna open up. Let me just clean up here that you understand. We didn't really do anything here. So let me go back and explain quickly again. So we went from EventEmitter here as an output to have it as an input. We turned this from like a non-observable to an observable, and we use async to connect to subscribe and unsubscribe without actually never writing subscribe and unsubscribe. Don't do that unless it's very necessary. And then we went inside our the search component. So I want to go to the service actually, so the core services. So in here, what we just did, we took that term and then we pipe it, we switch map, and we calling this. So we went end to end, and we have an observable doing the work right here. So let me take the README and make sure that we have. So we did this. We built an end-to-end streaming here system, and we turned our the input into a stream emitter, and then we kind of play a little bit with RxJS. Where do you go from here? Before I go to that point, I want to take some questions. So so question Niels says, I'm reading your question right now. So question 1 of Niels. So Niels, you said observable courses off, the initialization is useless. No, just declare it. So if I do this, you're kind of right. I think you're completely right. So let me take app component here. So app component on this line, yeah. So if I do this, I think it just work. It will just work. There is no issue, and I wouldn't even have an error. As you can see here, there is no error. But in some project, I use a linter that forces me to always initialize my variables. That's actually where I took this habit of just giving it a default value. Okay, Niels, is that right? So as you can see, it does work without putting the initialization, but yeah. Okay, so let me take the second question of Niels. Question 2, for after your presentation, why use an event emitter as an input or not just a subject? That's a good one. That's basically the next step. That is a good one. So as I said, we went from an implementation from the search here saying I'm using an event emitter, but as I shown you, an event emitter is a subject, which means let's get rid of that. And I'm gonna go into some craziness right now. Look at this. Look at this. I love RxJS. So instead of using an event emitter, I'm just gonna create a term here that is a subject. Okay, and it's a subject of we expect a string here, so I'm just gonna create a new subject. So yeah, okay. So now that I have a subject, I can get rid of this, and on this line, I just need to say, this is my term. Okay, so we're back to what Neil said. We use the subject. Now I need to go inside the app component, HTML, and then here I need to pass that term. That term here. See, my thing's gonna still work because yeah, indeed I'm using a subject, but let me go back in here and then say, well, I don't need any of that, to be honest. So give me the term. It's gonna come here as a subject. Okay, and now that I have that as a subject, I can go inside my search here, and then instead of doing this, I can just say term.next. See, there you go. I'm calling the next function directly, and I pass the string, and there we go. I use my subject end to end. So there is no more event emitter. I'm basically using a subject. But look at something. If I go back here, what is not working? Okay, I call it, I didn't change inside the app component. Where is it? It's here. I didn't call it the term as well. So that should fix our problem. Okay, so it is working. But now let me show you something quickly. Like we just said, an event emitter that we're using a subject, and it's a good one, right? I'm not, to answer your question, Niels, I don't use an event emitter, and that's basically what I was saying in my intro. Like we're gonna move from an event emitter to a subject because yeah, subjects are actually king. And I'm gonna show you one more thing about the subject that you can do, but if you do it in a project like this one, you're gonna confuse the hell out of your team. Okay, so I won't advise doing it. Okay, but I'm gonna show you something. Let me go inside app component. App component. Here I'm using a merge. There is a question by why would you use the merge operator? Want to show all when the source one will be updated and show all even if the search string was. Oh yeah, we talk about that in a second, Sam. Give me a second here. So when I'm here, I can just say, since this thing is a subject, okay, it is a subject, I can say, before I even go to the fact that this is a subject, let me just call this and make sure that I use this dot courses like this. So I'm commenting out this part. Okay. See what's gonna happen. Nothing happens. But if I type Angular, there you go. Now I see that I have my data coming in, right? So if I remove this, there we go. I see that when it's empty, when it is empty, I actually get all my data. Okay? So there is a sense like it's an HTTP call happening. When you send an empty value, it will actually trigger the search, but then returns you everything because there were no values to the title. So what I can do then, I can go here and then say, when in that implementation, I can say, I want you to start with an empty value. Okay, so when I do this, I say I want you to start with an empty value. This is gonna trigger the whole system. It's gonna warm up the whole system the first time, and since the HTTP call look at the fact that hey, there is no title, so I'm gonna send you all the data. That makes the first call redundant, like you don't need it, right? But that you could do it this way. I wouldn't advise you to do it in such scenario, but you could also go here and then say, well, this one is. So I comment out the search with term. I comment that out. Now you can also now say, this one is a behavior. Since it's a behavior, you can turn that into a behavior. It's a subject, my apologize. So now you can turn that into a behavior subject. And a behavior subject needs an initial value. So now I can say I'm giving you this empty value as an initial value. So by doing so, I kind of go back to the same scenario. Let me just update that, and there you go. I use a behavior subject by saying, let's start with an empty value, and then it's gonna trigger the whole system right away. And then you see that it does work here. So I'm actually leveraging the fact that since it's a subject, then I can use a behavior subject, and then I get my feature working without using. Let me go here, app component. So where is app component? So without using the call to get all component. Okay. Questions? So yeah, okay. Now let me take some question here. by the way, just to finish on this one, just to make sure that you understand what is happening. I know you see what is happening right here. So what I can do, I've shown you in my implementation. In my implementation, I've shown you this one, the final one, and I've shown you the merge. Okay, it's really good, and then you get the search, the fact that you can use a behavior subject here. Okay, and both are valid, but in that scenario, I would literally use a merge because I can also get more sources to come in with this. Okay. So that is the final point here. So Sam has a question. Sam says, why would you use the merge operator? Won't it show all when source one will be updated? So Sam, I'm not sure that I understand your question, because if I comment out this line, and I go and I uncomment this one, and then instead of using, let me remove this unnecessary code, and then here I use the term, and because I use the term here, then I should avoid to use a behavior. So I'm just gonna use a subject. Yeah, Ruben, the video is gonna be on YouTube, and the YouTube, we're gonna put a video on YouTube step by step, and the GitHub repo, and you'll be able to replay to play again with that, right? So that's really great. So now when you see, just to finish with Sam, Sam that is asking the question about, like, I'm not sure that I understood. Like, if you say this, Sam, I have one sources, then a second one, and both of them return a list of books, list of courses. In that case, I use the same app to build a book thing. So that's why I always say books instead of courses. So both of them return the same thing. So it makes completely sense to just merge them, because I don't know when they're gonna be called, or I don't know when they start providing data. But what I'm just expecting is, like, whenever they start providing data, like you can see right here, I can just start consuming that data and show that in my application, and show all even if the search string was provided. Yeah, okay, I kind of answered the second part. Okay, more questions, people? Anyone? I think Sam means that your user input resources can be overwritten by source one in a certain scenario. Yeah, indeed, David. That's exactly what I'm saying. But if you look at my code, so let's rewind quickly here. So if you look at my code here, these two things they have the same structure. They literally have the same structure, which means that whatever data comes in the flow, they're not gonna overwrite anything. They will just say, "Oh, it's my turn. Get me the data. Give me the data," and then there you go. You have the data. Oh, but then there is another one that arrives. It needs the data. It will just get the data. So yeah, indeed, same here. Bart says, I believe the question is to use the matching values between the two sources rather than a merge. The matching value between the two sources. I'm confused. I don't understand the question in that case. So the matching value between the two sources. Because here what I'm saying is, like, this one has the same structure than this one. Okay, that is actually one of the things that it's a webinar, so it's difficult to have the full explanation of what you mean. So I can always take you offline and then we discuss that. So source one gives all books. Yeah, so source two gives the search result. Okay, yeah. I'm reading Bart messages right here. So can you show the code service quickly? Okay. So code service. Core services is here. Yeah. So when you match the result, you only get the expected. Oh, okay. Do I understand it well? You're basically saying that I should make the search on the list of books, right? Oh, no. Okay, no, okay. Bart and Sam, I understand the idea of a merge. No, that's not the idea of that's not the thing. It doesn't merge the result. No, it doesn't. That's exactly the thing. No, it doesn't. So what it does is just says, remove what was there. Now it's this list. It's just that's what it does. It doesn't merge the two. It's basically saying there is a stream of data, and based on that stream of data, it says, give me there is a list of elements that just arrived. That list of elements becomes the visible element. And then when I do the search, there is a new list of elements. So it just forget about the other one, and now the new source is the last one. It doesn't merge them as final sources, right? Okay, good. Kenneth says, so the matching between the term and the call is done with the switch map. Yeah, indeed, it's switch map. So it comes as an observable. So you turn that observable into you connect that with the HTTP by using switch map, and then indeed and then it returns. It gives you a final observable, and then when you make that HTTP call, someone's gonna connect from the component, as we did in app component, to subscribe and unsubscribe there. Okay, the issue with this code is that source one is not cancelable. If the result of source one is after the first search term, source one will override the result of your okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying there. But Sam, yeah. Yeah, but beyond that, indeed, as you can see, Florian is completely right. Imagine you just add data in your backend, so you're actually expecting your backend to also be a real-time backend, because what the scenario you just gave me right there says, oh, you just make an HTTP call to get all the books, then you get all the courses, then you have it, and now someone make a search and then he gets part of those books, those courses. But then you're saying that I'm adding a new book in the list of all the books, but you're actually adding that in the same sources that is used for the HTTP. So since if your backend is a real-time backend, then both services gonna try to update the final result and show that on the front part. So what the point there, indeed. So that's I can see that you understood indeed what as Florian was saying. So yeah, it's the good one. It's weird to be the one talking and then not having you be able to interact with you directly. So people, I'm gonna have to wrap up here. We start like 5 minutes late and we're 15 minutes above time. So I want to thank you all for joining. It's the first one of many. We didn't expect so many people to join in, and I'm blown away. We were expecting like 20-30 people, and it's really great. So Shandan asked if we're gonna do that weekly. This is something we're going to evaluate this afternoon with the team at Hackages, and so if you're interested in that, just subscribe to our newsletter, and we have many ways to stay in touch. We're gonna be producing a lot of content moving forward. So you can just join us in on our social media and all our channels out there, and you will get all the latest information about the what's coming. So Shandan, as you ask, will we do that every week? I think we will be doing that, but we need to discuss with the team today. So by the way, you can see on the app, like I put a list of technology. So those are kind of the topics we're gonna cover over time. So if you're interested in things here and there, just subscribe to Hackages, and we're gonna make sure that you're aware of whatever happening in the coming days, actually. And people, be safe out there. Okay, it's a difficult time for all of us, but we all software engineer, and the internet is we design it, so we should enjoy it fully. So stay connected, keep learning every day, and join Hackages community event online. We're gonna do like tons of them. So thank you, people. Enjoy the rest of your day. Keep coding, and cheers. Bye.